I'm Lorraine Smith for 3BL Media. I'm in Toronto at the 8th Annual CBSR Summit, and I'm speaking with Heather Lang, who is the North American Director of Research for Jantzi-Sustainalytics. Thanks for joining us today, Heather. And just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about the work that Jantzi-Sustainalytics does?
Jantzi-Sustainalytics is an ESG research provider, E being the environment, S being the social, and G being the governance. Those are the three thematic areas that we focus on. We research right now as Jantzi-Sustainalytics. We research about 2,500 companies globally on those different themes, and we have a whole set of indicators that we look at in our research. Looking at companies, taking a stakeholder approach, mostly looking at companies' relations with employees, communities and society, customers, suppliers. Obviously, the environmental footprint is a big piece, and also the governance, and particularly oversight of corporate social responsibility, or ESG, if you will.
Lately, there's been a lot of talk of rating the raters. What is the Jantzi-Sustainalytics point of view on this type of analysis?
I think the perspective that we take with our new global research platform is a really interesting one. I mean, we're really treating ratings in a more relative as opposed to absolute terms. It's an iterative process, and we provide our clients with the functionality to take a deeper dive into our research. We provide a rating, which is based on our own raw scores for each indicator that we look at, and an associated weighting that we've assigned. So that's our proprietary research. But we provide our clients with an opportunity to get a little bit more hands-on with that research. They can adjust the weighting. So say we have a union trust fund as one of our clients, and they want to look. They want to emphasize union relations more heavily in their research. Then they can adapt those weightings and highlight it in a more significant way. Also, I think ratings only tell you a certain part of the story, and we also provide a functionality to single out companies that have significant controversies, for example, that don't really fully get captured in the ratings and in the scores that companies receive, because maybe they have some really outstanding programs and the resources, and they do a lot of disclosure, and that controversy doesn't really get emphasized in the way that we feel that it should, or they might have a controversial business involvement that clients can use as an additional filter or screen, if you will. So I think it's a little bit more complex. It's a little more nuanced than just here's a score.
What sort of trends are you seeing these days in companies' willingness to engage when you ask for disclosures or look for information?
I think, first of all, we're seeing a lot more disclosure, still not as much as we'd like to see, and still among the larger companies that have more resources to dedicate towards that. But now that we're looking at global companies, particularly in Europe and even increasingly so in the US, we're seeing more disclosure. We're also seeing, I started working in this industry about 10 years ago, and at that time, and even 5 years ago, we'd call up a company, and because company contact is one of the cornerstones of our research process, we give companies an opportunity to respond and to help fill in any gaps in our research process. There wasn't nearly as much collaboration as we're seeing nowadays. Now we have companies that are literally banging down our door to share their latest reports with us, to tell us about new initiatives that they're undertaking. So I think we've seen some huge headway there. Still, we have a ways to go, and particularly here in Canada, I think we have a ways to go in catching up with some of our global counterparts. But definitely, we're seeing a real trend towards disclosure, and we're also seeing the investment community really taking an active role in pushing that disclosure forward. We have now the SEC in the U.S. has a requirement that companies need to disclose climate change as a non-financial material risk, and to address that. Just recently in California, there was a supply chain There was a push for supply chain disclosure that passed. Now we're seeing investors coming together on emerging markets disclosure project to see companies in emerging markets providing more transparency on their ESG performance. So,
how important is collaborating with the investor community in order to do the work that you do?
I think we heard a lot of great examples today at the conference about collaborations, company-to-company collaborations, company NGO collaborations, even some multi-stakeholder collaborations. The investment community is a very vocal component of that collaboration. They're involved in multi-stakeholder initiatives for conflict minerals, child labor.
How is it valuable for you to attend the CBSR Summit?
It's very invigorating to come out and to connect, first of all, with companies who are really engaged on these issues. I find that every time I come out to a CBSR event, it's an important reminder of some of the struggles that companies face internally in order to push these agendas forward. I think it's really important face time for our analysts to have with the companies that they rate. And I think that that final panel about the game changing and pushing forward the agenda here in Canada in the coming years was really exciting, and I think it's a great community, and we need more opportunities to come have this face-to-face time together.
I'm Lorraine Smith for 3BL Media in Toronto at the CBSR Summit.